You ever have one of those mornings where you can feel trouble coming before you even put your hand on the gate? That was me, standing on my own front walk when Patricia, queen of the manicured hedges and iron blouses, marched right up and slammed a violation notice against my chest. Her voice, sharp as the point of her French tips, rang out for the whole cul-de-sac. This dock comes down in 48 hours. Noncompliance means $500 a day. Neighbors peeked through their curtains, hoping she'd keep marching, hoping the spotlight stayed off their lawn one more day. I looked her straight in the eye, calm as a Sunday stone, and handed her back the coldest line I could muster. You might want to double-check where your authority ends. Patricia's smile wavered for the briefest second, just enough to tell me I'd drawn blood. If you've ever faced down a bully and felt that little jolt of power, you know what I mean. Right there, I decided, this wasn't going to be a story about fear. It was about fighting back, and I was going to make it a masterclass. I told her my name, Daniel Mercer. Said it out loud so it'd ring in her ears later. I'm a licensed engineer. I build bridges that carry families to work every morning, and that dock? I built it with my dad, long before any of these self-important HOA meetings ever happened. That dock was the only place my old man could breathe easy after coming back from overseas. He was Navy. The war never quite left him, but on that dock, he could forget. When cancer took him, I made a promise to my own kids. They'd never lose that dock. Every time I oiled those planks in spring, it was another piece of him living on. Patricia didn't see any of that. To her, it was just an eyesore, something standing in the way of her tidy little world. But that dock was more than lumber. It was memory, it was blood, it was wildflowers tossed by my kids on my dad's birthday. It was my wife reading in the sun. It was our anchor. But all Patricia cared about was uniform shoreline and rules she could weaponize. She tapped her nails again, trying to look steady. Noncompliance will not be tolerated. Colder this time, like she was rehearsing for a part. I folded the paper real slow, pocketed it, and looked out at all those watching faces. Because every neighborhood has a Patricia, and every family gets that moment when you decide where you're going to draw your line. Patricia believed fear worked. But fear only wins if you've got something left to lose. And I didn't. She'd picked the wrong guy. I watched her heels click away, each step like a judge's gavel. She thought this was the end. She had no clue it was just the opening move. You could almost feel the tension building when the board met that night. Marcus Whitfield perched at the head of the oak table, his binder fanned open like some kind of judge's ledger. Marcus loved the ritual of it, rattling off violations, savoring every nervous chuckle as he threatened people with fines for their shutters or mailbox color or some flower pot that offended his sense of order. This wasn't about harmony. It was humiliation, and the whole room felt it. He called my name slow, like he was chewing it. Mr. Mercer and his illegal dock. Fine start tomorrow, $500 a day. I didn't blink. Because that dock was a promise to my father, not just some construction. I noticed Linda Rose, the treasurer, across the table, pen frozen above her notepad, jaw clenched. She'd always voted with Marcus before, but tonight, something was different in her eyes. Marcus leaned forward, playing at being reasonable. You could save us all time, Mr. Mercer, and take it down. I kept my voice low, steady. You might want to make sure you've actually got the authority for those fines before you start counting. For just a second, his mask slipped. That's the thing about authority. It's only real when people believe in it. The rest of the meeting dragged, Marcus flinching every time our eyes met. Calm silence is heavier than anger. It leaves people wondering what you know that they don't. When it finally ended, neighbors hustled out, whispering about mailboxes, avoiding Marcus's stare. I walked by him, no reaction, but Linda's pen clattered to the floor. Guilt or fear? I couldn't tell, but it mattered. Outside, the night smelled sharp with lake water, the lights from the clubhouse looking more like a stage than a place of order. I walked home along the shoreline, each wave reminding me, stand firm. Marcus thought he'd won another round. He couldn't see the cracks already spreading under his feet, the police report I'd filed, the filings he'd ignored, Linda's silent rebellion. I stepped out on the dock, wood creaking, staring into the black water. Marcus wanted me broken, but all he'd done was light the fire that was going to burn his own authority down. A couple days later, I ran into Linda at the grocery store. She was frozen by the apples, blouse wrinkled, looking like she hadn't slept. I greeted her, kept it light. Clubhouse was lively last night. She winced, hands wide on her cart. Marcus likes order, she muttered. Order. I wanted to laugh. Order's a fragile thing. Breaks easy when the foundation isn't as strong as people think. She swallowed hard, guilt written all over her face. She knew things about Marcus, about contracts, money moved without votes. But she wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. I let her off the hook, gave her a nod. Sometimes people need silence more than questions to find their courage. As I walked away, I heard her exhale. The dam was straining. It would break. That night, Marcus came to my door, flanked by 2 security guards in matching jackets, boots scraping across my welcome mat. He waved another notice. Final warning. Remove the dock in 24 hours, or enforcement comes in. I leaned against the door, blocking my daughter's view. My kids had seen enough already. You're not law enforcement, I said. Marcus's grin twitched. Boards authorized private security. He was bluffing, betting on intimidation. I leaned in, voice low. You don't have the standing for this. Not for the fines, not for the muscle. Even your own treasurer knows it. His jaw flexed, but he just turned and left, guards trailing like props. Inside, Julia, my wife, sat at the table, legal files spread out. I dropped the notice next to her. 24 hours, I said. She didn't have to ask what that meant. She'd already been handcuffed on our porch in front of the kids once. Marcus was pressing too hard. He was leaving fingerprints everywhere. Next morning, I went down to the county office, the air thick with the smell of dust and bureaucracy. I requested the plat maps and incorporation records for Lakefield Shores. Sat there flipping through decades of signatures, reading between the lines. My father's dock permit, filed and stamped years before the HOA even existed, was right there, black and white. But more important, I found a gap. The HOA's charter had lapsed for several months a few years back. During that time, Marcus had kept right on issuing fines, hiring security, signing contracts, pretending his authority was ironclad. But every single action during that gap, it could be contested. That wasn't just a crack in his armor. It was a hole wide enough to drive a truck through. I left the office with a folder of proof, sun in my face, knowing I'd found the thread to unravel everything. Marcus thought he was untouchable. He had no idea he'd been standing on quicksand. When I picked up my kids after choir practice, they were nervous. Ever since Julia got cuffed, they hated being away from home. My daughter's eyes were big. Is he going to take the dock, Dad? I knelt beside her. Not while I'm here. That dock's ours, your grandpa's, and yours one day. Her relief cut me deep. This wasn't about lumber. It was about protecting family, memory, and promise. That night, Julia pored over the documents. The renewal lapse was the golden ticket. Everything Marcus did during that window is void, she whispered. Her judge's mask slipped, just for a second, and I saw the woman who'd stood in handcuffs and still never backed down. We end this. Not for us, for the kids. For everyone. A day later, Linda found me at the library. She looked like she'd carried a stone up a hill for years, then finally decided to let it roll. She slid me an HOA expenditure summary. Marcus had paid the security firm from reserve funds. No board vote. No paper trail except his signature during the exact lapse period I'd found. There are more, she said. Invoices, records, all done without approval. She was scared, but she was done being silent. You have to end this. I promised her I would. I spent the night at the diner, papers spread out, building my case. Plat maps, permits, corporate lapses, fraudulent expenses. Piece by piece, it came together, not just to clear my name, but to bring Marcus down for good. I planned my move for the next board meeting. A church hall this time, neutral ground, no advantage for Marcus. I arrived early, laid out every document, every piece of evidence. When the room filled, neighbors with violation notices clutched like shields. Marcus tried his usual theater. But when I stood and started laying down plat maps and corporate lapses, the room changed. Marcus tried to laugh it off, but then Linda stood and confessed. He told us it didn't matter. He used our money, lied to the board, bullied families. I was afraid. I'm not afraid anymore. Her words cracked the fear that held the room. Then the stories poured out. Wheelchair ramps, gardens, humiliation, fines for nonsense. Marcus tried to shout them down, but the tide had turned. People started chanting, "Resign, resign." The board froze, unwilling to save him. And right there, the man who'd ruled by fear saw his power break. The vote came fast. Suspended, pending review, and talk of legal action on his way out the door. He left that hall smaller than I'd ever seen him, binder limp, sweat streaked down his collar. I walked down to the dock at sunset, Julia by my side, kids chasing frogs and laughing for the first time in months. My father's words echoed in my head. Build for storms, not for sun. That dock stood, board strong, the legacy outlasting every storm Marcus could throw at us. Neighbors started talking again. Reform, new bylaws, apologies for silence. Linda lingered at the door, guilt and relief on her face. She'd helped tip the scales, and I made sure she knew it. The real victory wasn't in the papers or the technicalities. It was in people standing up together, realizing fear only works as long as you let it. As the last light faded, my daughter wrapped her arms around me, whispering, "You kept it, Dad." No, I thought we kept it. For the first time in a long time, the air was light. The houses looked like homes again, not prison cells. And I knew as the frogs sang and my kids laughed that this fight would be remembered long after Marcus's name was forgotten. The dock would stand. The promise would hold. And every neighbor who found their voice would carry the lesson forward. Fear doesn't win if you stand together. If you've ever tangled with an HOA or just want to see more stories of regular folks standing up to tyranny, share your own story in the comments. Where are you watching from, and what would you have done? Because in the end, justice is built by the people who refuse to back down, even when the whole neighborhood is watching.